Hello, everyone, and welcome to Build End-to-End IoT Solutions. This is a 5-part series. So this part, we are focusing on transforming your business with IoT. My name is Pamela Cortez. I am on the Azure IoT product team. I focus on dev communities, also write a lot of tutorials, training material, go out and train partners, and also take a lot of feedback from our products from all of you into the product team for us to keep continuing to improve our products. So I'm really excited to be your trainer for all 5 sessions. So let's all go ahead and get started. Feel free to ask questions during the presentation. We do have some folks on the side who can help answer questions. For this, as I mentioned before, this is a workshop series. So the first one, Transform Your Business with IoT, we're really going to deep dive into the business value of it and then give an overview of the Microsoft IoT portfolio. And then we're going to go showcase how to get started with IoT Hub, show some resources, some developer resources, and really get everyone aware of what is available. All right, and then next week in our next session is devices and device communication. This is all about device to cloud and cloud to device communication. We're going to be deep diving into IoT Hub. We're going to have lecture part in the beginning, but we're really going to deep dive into the code for this one. So you're really going to understand how to do device management, how to connect your devices securely, our device SDKs. So that one's going to be also a really fun one, especially for the developers out there, for us to dig into the code. The next one is going to be the device provisioning at scale. You know, it's great to connect one device, but what happens when you have tons of devices that you need to register, configure, and really be able to scale quickly? So we're really going to be going over the device provisioning service and how that works with IoT Hub, and how that fits into that overall device lifecycle process. After that, we will be going through messaging processing, analytics, and business integration. For that workshop, virtual training event, what we'll focus on is really the Azure Stream Analytics, all up stream processing, storage. We'll also talk about time series insights. So if you're very interested in that, we'll actually build an application together, and then we'll look into IoT Hub's integration with Event Grid. And then the final out of the series is work with Azure IoT Edge. This one's going to be a really fun one. Again, with the other 4, we're really digging into the code for those. So for IoT Edge, for this webinar, I'll go over what is Azure IoT Edge, but that last webinar, we're really going to be deep diving in how to build for edge devices and actually bring intelligence from the cloud that's normally in the cloud into edge devices. So that one's going to be a really exciting one as well. So the link there to register for all of those workshops. And if you can't make one of those dates, it's okay, because all of these videos will be on demand and ready anytime to watch. All right, so for this training event, the things that we're going to cover is 1, Internet of Things opportunities, that business transformation across different industries, and we're really going to dig into the data, what the different use cases across different industries are, what are some products that helps across different use cases, and then we'll go into architecture of an IoT solution. What are the subsystems of an IoT solution that you should be aware of and how that relates to our products? We'll then go into just what is our portfolio. There's a lot of products and services that Microsoft offers for IoT solutions. This virtual training event, we're really just going to cover the core ones, but there is a lot which you'll see, and you'll understand soon why there's a lot of products and services to make building IoT solutions easier for you. And then I like to always have real world scenarios for each one of those products and services and use cases. That way it inspires us and also keeps us aware of what other folks are doing in the industry. Then we're going to jump into a mini lab on getting started with Azure IoT Basics. And really, we're going to create an Azure dashboard, resource group. We're going to dig into the Azure portal. You'll be able to know where to find IoT Hub in the Azure portal. We'll get IoT Hub created, a new one. We'll register a device, and then we'll link the device provisioning service to IoT Hub. So that one's really just going to cover the very basics, and we have a couple other demos throughout the presentation as well. And then at the end, I'm going to cover developer resources. So these are resources where it's more than just our docs, but how you can get involved, how you can reach us in engineering, because we love talking to all of you, and drive feedback and great discussions. Okay, so before we even get started, let's just level set with the IoT applications and the core 3 elements of an IoT application: things, insights, and actions. Things, of course, is the devices that are sending that data that generates the insights. Those insights are extremely important because these insights then generate actions. So I'll give you a great example. One is if you have an engine, and the engine has sensors on it that's sending temperature data. This is on the things side. That data is then used to evaluate if the engine is performing at peak quality. And if for some reason the engine is running hot and you set thresholds to say, hey, this is not good, or you're starting to see issues long term, you can take those insights and drive actions out of it. For example, a great action item out of that would be making sure that you can have a maintenance person. So if the heat goes up too high, alert a maintenance person or a service person, field worker, to go out and look at that engine and see what's happening. So out of the core of all of this, out of an IoT application, we think of it as things, insights, and actions. All right, so let's dig into the different industries. A lot of people, when they're thinking of IoT, they're thinking of consumer devices, but really want to touch point that there's all of these industries right now that are actively doing this digital transformation. So we have manufacturing. They're really focused on how do I increase my efficiency or be more efficient with the machines on the factory floor. They're also looking into new revenue sources. The energy sector is looking to be more efficient, especially with green energy and people wanting to be more sustainable. They want cleaner power and using less of it across the industries. Retail is extremely huge for IoT. These are to create a better customer experience, create a new market opportunity. So for example, if you are in a store and you want to understand where folks are in your store are going, if they're all going into one location, that might be a good indication of saying, all right, maybe we need to change our inventory and where it is in the shelf to help drive traffic to other parts of our store. And that could be helped with IoT. Smart cities, you've probably seen it a lot in the news, but a lot of cities now are really looking into how do we become more sustainable, and also how do we compete against other cities as well. And then transportation. A lot of connected vehicles out there, they're moving goods. We'll really deep dive into this a little bit later. Healthcare, really just overall improving the quality and better outcomes for their patients. And then about farms, they're really changing what they're doing with connected tractors, what they can do with the food to make sure the food, when it's being shipped from their farms to, let's say, a store or a warehouse, that they're kept in top condition. So it's actually really changing the way that farmers are now part of their industry. So we're going to go ahead and deep dive into one of them, which is healthcare. So I mentioned a little bit about healthcare. So 89% of healthcare organizations are adopting IoT. So IoT is not something that people are just hearing about. They're ready to adopt it right now, and 85% see this IoT as crucial for the overall success. And then also 78% want to apply more IoT to their business. And you actually see a lot of these numbers across the different industries of these high percentage of folks from those industries really understanding the value of IoT. And the reason why there's some top benefits for health organizations to adopt IoT: reduce chances for human error, help care teams, unlock savings, increase revenue, improve the traceability of their equipment, supplies, and inventory. We even see now connected robotics in the healthcare industry on, understanding how to give pills out and which pills to give out to certain patients, or even connected robots where it has a screen on them and they have a virtual doctor, a remote doctor who can go and be on that screen and talk to patients. So we're just seeing a lot of innovation that's happening in the healthcare industry. Some of the top use cases would be smart hospital equipment. So gain insights from your hospital equipment to monitor and manage that equipment. Those equipment and healthcare, especially hospitals, are really expensive. So being able to make sure that it's being maintained, make sure that there's could be any predictive maintenance on there, being able to track some equipment that maybe has been stolen or anything like that. There's a lot of things that can happen in a hospital and why you want to monitor the equipment. Inventory management for medical supplies is one, healthcare, manufacturing. So people who are actually developing these medical devices, a lot of them are making them connected, and how do they do that securely, and also be able to make sure that they're in industry standards that is really part of healthcare. And then a couple more is cold chain supply tracking, and then continuous patient monitoring. Continuous patient monitoring, you're seeing that more and more in hospitals looking at this. They want to make sure that when patients leave the hospital, that they're doing okay as well. So I wanted to give an example of this, of a rehab center who is actually focused on diabetes. So I thought this story was really interesting because, and I wasn't aware of this, but every 20 seconds, someone loses a leg or a foot due to diabetes related complications. So part of this is that this center actually created a wearable connected device that was able to continuing to see the health of the patient, making sure that everything's good. So it was a connected, smart connected boot. So this is really, really innovative of seeing how they can lower the mortality rate, which is already at 50 to 75%, how they can lower that by creating a boot that sends that information, alerts the doctors. That way they can send in the patients to be able to get help when needed. So I thought this was a really powerful story. Big fan of what we can do in the medical field to drive real impact with the patients. So IoT and manufacturing, lots of times manufacturing is considered one of the top industries for IoT, and there's definitely a big reason for that. 92% of manufacturers consider it crucial to the success of their company. So there's actually a lot of manufacturing right now where there's, a lot of machines under the production lines that need to be monitored, but there's also a lot of service workers who are going to each machine, collecting the data, and then manually collecting the data and then reporting it up, which can take a lot of time, especially if you need to make sure that if there's a machine that's going down now, the service worker needs to be alerted pretty quickly. So going back to the numbers, 96% of those manufacturers are satisfied with the value of IoT adds to their company. So this is showing direct impact and cost savings for these manufacturers who have adopted IoT. So top use cases that we're seeing in manufacturing, continuous-based monitoring. Again, there's a lot of equipment on factory floors, a lot of machinery that every downtime that happens on a manufacturing floor is a big loss. I used to do assembly on production floors, and anytime one of the equipment went down, the line, we would have to completely stop the line. Myself would have to fix the pick and place machine or hurry up and grab a maintenance person, which you can imagine all of the workers who are on that line not doing anything, because if one machine goes down and it's assembly line and there's nothing else for those folks at the end of the assembly line to keep going. So that's a huge reason why they want to make sure these machines are connected to lower that downtime. Predictive maintenance over time, over equipment effectiveness. This is really important to see that the equipment that you actually have is actually performing at peak. And especially when you're building other production lines, making sure you have the right equipment and really seeing the performance of the equipment that you have. If you see some equipment not actually being at their peak performance, why is that? And actually being able to look at that long-term data that's been collected and stored in the cloud, have some machine learning on it and really see what's going on will help make decisions on future purchases as well. Asset tracking, there's a lot of equipment going all over the place. And that's why it's really important to be able to know where that asset actually is. I worked on a project where on the factory floor, there was a lot of forklifts that were going all over the place. And you can imagine that's extremely dangerous if someone enters a zone where there's a forklift in that's actually being used at the moment. Being able to sit there and have a worker who goes into the wrong zone be alerted because you were actually able to, let's say they were wearing, a tracking device, or let's say there was a camera that was doing anonymity detection and was looking at the workers who are going into the zones or object detection and notice someone came into the zone that's not supposed to be there. That can alert the service worker to move, or the manager of the floor to move that person from that zone. That will help a lot, especially for workplace safety. And then intelligent supply chain and facility management. So facility management is a lot about the energy consumption in different areas. If a place is not being used or location of the buildings not being used, if it's still the thermostat is on high, you're probably wasting a lot of money in that area if no one's over there. So being able to know and be able to have these smart manufacturing buildings also helps save on cost. All right, so you maybe have heard of this digital feedback loop. This is a popular concept, but what it is, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier with things, insights, and actions. And it takes all of this data coming from devices, from folks, and analyzing this information to create those new insights. And so it really allows these companies to make improvements to their business, from increasing efficiency on delivering better customer experience and new revenue streams. So really, this goes back to the things, insights, and actions. And data comes from all different places, from your products to your employees, from the customers to the operation. And when you bring them all together, you can drive amazing insights that will help you be able to actually improve your business outcomes. So I kind of hit it on that earlier, so I won't dig in too deeply on the digital feedback loop. All right, so kind of went over the industries, but in big picture, the numbers, 80 billion connected things by 2025. That's coming up pretty quickly, generating tons of data. So you can imagine there's tons of devices being connected, and we really need to be able to simplify that experience with all those devices, especially with a lot of people having more smart devices in their homes and all of these different industries connecting devices to help them monitor or help them with their use cases. The number is really huge. 80 billion is a lot. 267 billion is predicted of the actual spend in IoT by manufacturers, actually by this year, so by the end of this year. So there's a lot of money into it, and there's a reason why folks are investing in IoT. And then the last one I wanted to mention is that 80% of folks who actually adopt IoT, they see an increase of revenue due to the fact that they adopted IoT. So this is, you could see, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but there's a lot of value into bringing IoT into these different industries. All right, so if you've been part of the IoT industry for a while now, or have been doing IoT scenarios, there's a couple different innovations along the way when we think of IoT. First, connected devices. We connected those devices to the cloud, and that was great. We were able to grab insights and be able to perform machine learning on the cloud, on the data, and then be able to drive actions out of that. So that's where IoT was with innovation. The next round was Edge. So Edge was all about, you know what, I'm sending all of this data to the cloud. What happens now that I want to be, like, if I have, I'll give a good example. If my equipment is on a manufacturing floor and for some reason the internet is not very good, which is very, very common on manufacturing floors, how do I actually bring that intelligence to the edge device? That way I can be more real time, the latency, lower the latency, and be able to process data on the edge. So you saw that was one stage. That was the next stage of IoT, was really offloading that intelligence that was normally in the cloud onto devices. Then we started bringing more AI into it. So breakthrough with intelligent capabilities in the cloud and on the edge. And so I'll dig a little bit more into that later, but AI has been really impacting what we're seeing on the cloud side and then on the edge side as well. And then where we're going to be heading for the next top innovation is digital twins. Digital twins is really important, and there's a reason why you're starting to see more companies look into what digital twins actually means. It's creating a living replica of a physical environment and being able to track its past and predict the future. So you can imagine having an actual full building and all of its assets in digital form before it's even built. So there's definitely a lot of power into digital twins, and this is the latest innovation in this space. All right, so what is Microsoft doing when it comes to innovation in IoT from the cloud to the edge? We're really focusing on simplifying IoT operations. If folks who are listening to this webinar right now have built IoT solutions, it's not always easy. It's sometimes it could be complicated, it could be time consuming. It used to be that it would take, year plus before people would actually have an IoT solution that they can do in production. So it's really important with all these different industries who are wanting to put IoT in operations for us to be able to simplify it. So we've been really focused on that area. Also, security. Security is extraordinarily important, and being able to do that easy, because right now, there's so many elements of security that's hard to do, from connecting the device or security actually on the device, connecting the device to the cloud, and then security on your cloud side and your resources. There's so many different elements where every touch point needs to be secure. So that's definitely a big focus. Bringing AI to the edge. Making AI easier to run on the edge is really important. AI, I've worked with a lot of data science teams where they're working on AI models, it's a kind of a different mentality when you have it on the cloud, when you're trying to deploy it on a smaller device. And so we're trying to make easier because folks who are normally working on the device side, now they need to work with folks who are building these AI models. And if the AI model is too big to be on the device, that can have some complications. So rethinking of how we're bringing AI to the edge, even to these smaller devices, is going to be really important. Then digital twins, what I was mentioning earlier, managing a physical world with digital models across smart spaces is also where we're innovating as well. All right, so I really recommend people, if you haven't yet checked out the IoT Signals report, it's a really great way to understand where the industry is right now. And what I mean by that is that this study was brought in a bunch of partners, customers from small to large businesses. What are the biggest challenges that they're facing? What are some areas what are some of their top use cases? What are some areas of concern? And so here are some three things from that report that I thought was really important to bring in here. One is that 88% see IoT is crucial to business success, and then 48% see that there's a lack of skilled workers in IoT solutions. And there's a reason for that, because IoT, it's broad. So you have your devices, you have your cloud application developers, you have a lot of different types of developers working on IoT solutions, and there's a lot of different skill sets that you need to have, and a lot of big teams that you need to think of, and a lot of ways that you need to upskill for these workers as well. And this still being, even though it's not new, it's still relatively new to comparing to other skills in other industries and other scenarios that's been around for a long time. So we are seeing a huge lack of skilled workers in the IoT space. And that number is actually from folks who have already committed to bringing IoT to their companies. So these are folks and companies who are ready to do it, ready to actually build these, but they're blocked by the lack of skilled workers. And then, no big surprise, I think, from anyone, 97% of industry said security is top of mind when it comes to building IoT solutions. I think we probably hear on the news every other month of something being hacked or a vulnerability. And so this is a huge concern area for a lot of people, because especially for consumer devices, if you have a connected home device and it gets compromised, that can really hurt your brand. And then across other industries, of course, as well. So going back to that knowledge that is crucial for the business success, it means that we need a really solid offerings for IoT for folks to quickly get started. So here's an overview of the Microsoft portfolio, and we'll dig into these. And you can see that these different products and services cross these different industries. And so, like, for example, Azure IoT Hub is going to be used in all those different industries. So we have our IoT app services, Azure IoT Central. This is all about a managed platform to be able to build with IoT Central, build IoT solutions quickly. And we'll go through that in a little bit. And then our core services. We have Azure IoT Hub, device provisioning service, which is part of that Azure IoT Hub, digital twins, Azure Maps, time series insights, Azure Security Center for IoT, and then go back to that Edge offering. So Azure IoT Edge, Azure Sphere, Azure RTOS, and Windows IoT. So we'll cover those. So those are the core elements, but really when you're building an IoT solution, that is just one part of your IoT solution, because you also have to think about where are you storing this data, how are you visualizing this data, how are you working with AI models, how are you doing DevOps, and then what happens if you have your own devices and you need to figure out how to connect to them. What are some of the services we have to help you along with that? What about stream processing? So it's definitely a lot of services to help folks build end-to-end IoT solutions. All right, so let's go ahead and go through what are the sub systems in an IoT solution that it's part of almost every single IoT solution that you see out there. So we've already covered things, insights and actions, and I know that that's just 3 things out of an IoT solution, but a realistic view is there is so much more in building into an IoT solution for us to think about, and you can see device lifecycle all the way from storing data to how are you going to integrate this with the rest of your business. So there's a lot of things to note. So let's go ahead and deep dive into these different areas. So let's start with the things side. So first thing that we have is IoT devices. So these devices we need to securely register in the cloud. We need to be able to connect it to the cloud through a cloud gateway. So think of a cloud gateway as a way for those devices to connect securely to the cloud and send data. It also provides device management. So not only are you sending data up to the cloud, you should be able to do cloud to device communication back. Our cloud gateway offering that we'll talk about in a moment is IoT Hub. And then you also have device provisioning that you need to think about. It's one thing to, connect one device to the cloud, but if you need to connect many devices to a cloud and register them, configure them, it's really important to look into IoT Hub device provisioning service because it's really going to help you assign and register those devices to specific Azure IoT Hub endpoints at scale. The next part is actually stream processing. And stream processing is all about, analyzing large streams of data that's being sent from these sensors and being able to analyze that data as well. So we recommend Azure Stream Analytics, but there are multiple products and services and open source solutions that you can use as well. And you can also look into, Azure Databricks if you prefer that. And then storage. This data needs to be stored somewhere. If you're really hoping that the data is going to be available immediately, then you're going to start looking into warm path storage. This means that data, you can get access to it quickly from the device for reporting and visualization. That we recommend Cosmos DB. For cold path storage, this is for if you need to hold the data for longer term and be used for batch processing. We recommend Azure Blob Storage for that, but this is important if you want to do predictive maintenance or just need to be able to see data from long periods of time. So you're really going to look at cold path storage. Next part is we're going to get to the action side, is that business integration. It's great that you have all this data, you have all this insight, but how does that integrate with the rest of your business? And so this is all about sending alerts or being able to incorporate it to your CRMs, or maybe even sending raising alarms or sending email or text messages for alerts. So whatever your business integration is, being able to quickly take all of that IoT data and put it into what you already have as your business integration. Next thing is actually the reporting tools, being able to configure control, the UI. This is important because you probably want to visualize the data, and there's not, there's going to be a lot of teams who might not want to sit there and look at tons and tons of data in a non-friendly manner. So being able to have reporting tools and a nice user experience, a nice dashboard of this data to quickly understand what is happening is really important. And then also user management. User management is really important in an IoT solution because you might want one of your employees who's working on devices to have access to certain things, and then folks who are just focusing on the data side and visualizing the data, not to have direct access to other things. So being able to say, who is the person who's going to have access to a particular service or product, or being able to have access to certain data will help in who does what, and then also in your actual IoT solution. So these can be, which users who perform actions on devices, such as upgrading firmware, and overall just user management is part of most solutions. All right. So let's go back to the first part. Since we went through that, what are those core elements of building an IoT solution? Let's go back to the devices and how they're connecting to the cloud and device management. So what we offer is IoT Hub. IoT Hub, it establishes that bidirectional communication. This is really meant for IoT devices, and so having that having IoT Hub as a managed service hosted on the cloud, it acts as that central message hub for all of the data that's being sent by your devices. It's secure, so there's secure authentication for each device that you have. It's also have services like device provisioning service that helps you provision. And also it supports any device out there. And so we have a series of open source SDKs. So if you have, a device that is a constrained device, that's small, we do have SDKs that can help with that. We have them in different languages as well. So the core languages like C, C#, Java, all of that in our SDKs. And then it's also easy to integrate with the Azure services as a whole. And then device management. So I kind of wanted to go a little bit deeper into this, but really the next, our next webinar, we'll really deep into the code, the SDKs, and how to get started with IoT Hub. But I wanted to give some more information of what I said in that last slide. So we have that bi-directional communication, but I wanted to highlight that end-to-end security. So we do have support for X509 certs, TLS security. We can support per device certificates. We also help with that end-to-end security part of the firmware software updates. And then we also have the Azure Security Center support as well, which you'll find that we'll talk about in a little bit. And then the device provisioning service also has that level of security too. It supports that X509 certs, supports TPM, which is really important to be able to have that trusted platform module on your device. And then also it supports load balancing across IoT Hub. And so I just wanted to highlight some more extra features to think about with Azure IoT Hub and the device provisioning service. So I wanted to give this example. So this is all about, this is one of for our customers and shipping containers, shipping logistics, all of that it's really a top use case. And so you can imagine if you are a farmer, kind of what I highlighted earlier, and you are selling produce and you need to ship a bunch of bananas and you're working through these shipping containers. This industry is, this company is shipping your produce. There is refrigerated containers that you could be shipping, that you can use to ship your produce. A lot of those are connected, which is great because you will be able to tell if for some reason it went down and know that, hey, there's something wrong here with the produce, with the actual container on the shipping container, this container where you can actually say, hey, we need to do something here now, or even when you get to the dock, understand that, okay, there might be something wrong with the actual assets now in the shipping container because we saw, the temperature go down, and we need to check on this right away. And so this use case was to really showcase that having connected refrigerated containers can be really impactful because it can tell you the condition of the actual food or produce or any, there's a lot of assets that needs temperature control or pressure control, and how they did that. And also lots of times with these shipping containers, and when you're crossing the ocean, it's not connected, or maybe there's only a satellite connection to the cloud. So this also shows a great offline story as well of being able to continuing to collect that data. So when you do arrive to a place that does have connection, that when they get there and have that connection, you can go ahead and send that data up so you can quickly get insights and make the appropriate actions. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the Azure portal. I know we've been going deep into these PowerPoint slides, so let's just take a break and go and learn how to get set up. So if you haven't seen yet, we have Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is a great place to do online sandbox environment training. It's about a year old for Microsoft, and I highly recommend checking it out. So what we're going to do is, if you want to follow along, or I'm going to go through it, and you'll have the link at the end or now, it's totally up to you. But I wanted to showcase what we're going to be doing right now. So we're going to create an Azure dashboard research group. We're going to create an IoT hub using the Azure portal. Then we're going to go through what's actually in, when you're in created an IoT hub, what are some of the features of it? What are some of the views? And we'll deep dive into that. And then we're going to create a device provisioning service and link it to our IoT hub. So let's get away from the PowerPoint slides for a bit. So I'm going to take this link. And where it goes to is actually Microsoft Learn. And this is a learning path. Part of learning paths have different modules. These are all standalone units where they're individual hands-on tutorials. And you can actually do these modules by themselves. You can see that this learning path has a set of modules you can go through, depending on what you want to learn. This one is all about introduction to Azure IoT. So what I'm talking about right now, enabling digital transformation, you can learn from this module and what our strategy solutions are. But what we're going to focus here today is learn how to manage IoT devices as an IT admin. So we're going to go ahead, click on that. And I just want to show this to you, but I'm going to go into the Azure portal, so we won't go step by step on this tutorial because I'm going to walk you through how to get everything started. So this tutorial is really the basics of getting started with IoT Hub. And so you're going to get the introduction to IoT. You're going to get use a Raspberry Pi simulator. If you haven't worked with Raspberry Pis, they're nifty dev boards. They're super popular for makers and developers, and so it's a simulator for that. And then we'll set up our hub, register, and run the device, and we'll see how that all works. All right, so you can start, or you can wait until the end of the presentation. So what I'm going to do, I have two accounts here. I have a dummy account, and so this is the Azure portal. You can go to portal.azure.com. You will need to log into the portal through your email or just any type of email. You should be able to get into the portal. You can see when you're on the home page, you can create a resource. You can see that some of my Azure services are already up there because I already used the device provisioning service. I was already using an IoT hub, but normally you see subscription, your resource group, if you have a virtual machine, your storage account. It helps you navigate what your tools are. And so there's many ways to actually create a resource. So you can create it from actually on your sidebar, or you can create it from your home page, or you can even just create it through your search. So I'm going to just show when you create a resource. When you are in the marketplace, we do have an area just for IoT. And what you're going to see is your IoT hub, your device provisioning service, IoT Central, and I'll actually go through building an IoT solution with IoT Central shortly. But you'll see related services to IoT. So if I click on that, it'll give me more information and it will say how to create it. So we could go ahead, work through and create a new one. So I'm going to create a new resource group. So let's see, I think I'm just going to call it IoT Workshop Part 1. And I've just created a new research group. This research group is all about having your collection of different services and products. You select your region. I always recommend people to check the actual products that you're going to be using and their availability in different regions. For example, that I find this really useful. Search products available by region, and you can do a Bing or Google search that says Azure IoT availability by region, or it's on Microsoft Azure, our website as well. So if I look at Azure IoT Hub, I like to see what I have available in the different regions and where you're located. And the good thing is it shows across all regions. I just have it selected for United States and Canada. And then you can also see, like, for example, device provisioning service. If I'm in Canada right now, it's not available. It will be available, the device provisioning service, even though IoT Hub is available. So if I wanted to use device provisioning service, no, I don't need to be in Canada East, but it's good. It's just good to know where your resources are going to be. So I'm just going to choose East. Let's name it your IoT Hub. So I'm going to go ahead and say IoT Hub Workshop Part 1. Okay, perfect. I'm going to wanted to highlight pricing and tiers. This is really important, especially when you're starting out, to understand what these different tiers mean. So we do have a free tier, and I always recommend folks get started on the free tier and instead of the basic tier. Mostly because if you're playing around, here's another site that kind of goes through the IoT Hub pricing. That's linked right up in pricing, and you can search for IoT. But I wanted to bring this up because you can see that basic does not cover device streams or cloud to device messaging. It's all about that device to cloud telemetry. And so there's definitely cost savings here, but if you want to do bi-directional communication, definitely choose the free or standard tiers. And if you're just getting started, the free tier is great because you can actually, it depends on your number of messaging, but if you're just piloting and you're just testing our services, you can see that the free tier, how many number of messages you're being sent that you're allowed a day, and then it goes up by standards. All right, so I'm just going to hit the free tier. You are limited to one per ascription. So I'm gonna actually have a couple. Actually, have a couple of these IoT hubs set. So I'm just gonna hit the standard. I'm gonna review, see everything's good. I'm gonna go ahead and create. And what you're gonna see in your Azure portal is deployment is happening. So what this is doing is creating your IoT hub. Good to go. So I'm gonna go over here. And you're going to see my screen's going to be a little bit different, but it's because I actually have the information hidden. So if you're someone who does a lot of training or needs to showcase, not want to showcase sensitive information, even though this is a dummy account, I always like to just kind of tell people, hey, there's a thing called an Azure MAERSK where you can actually hide your username and all of that information. But this is the same IoT hub that we were creating. Actually, I grabbed another one, but I could actually see all of my IoT hubs for particular ascriptions. So you can see that's the one we just created. I'm going to jump in there. And let's go ahead and it's not in active state because it's still being built. So while we're waiting for that deployment, let me go ahead and jump on this other one that's already been deployed. And normally deployment doesn't take very long. Sometimes you see it 2 minutes, sometimes 5, depending on where you're at, but it's fairly quick. So overview, the information you're going to get an overview, you're going to see the tier that you're on. So for this IoT Hub, I'm on free. You're going to see your host name and your actual subscription ID, your current location, if it's active, information that you're going to want to see. I do have a device that's active on this IoT Hub. That's why you see a couple spikes. And so you see activity log. This is really just going to go through exactly what it means, activity log. So if you created a new resource, what you've done with your IoT Hub, got all my keys. So all of the things that you were doing with your activity, it's logged. Access control. So if I wanted to add a user to this IoT Hub, this is where I would do that. I can add them as owner or set different permissions for them. So tags. You can go ahead and set tags. This is more for billing, so I'm not going to deep dive into that area. You're also able to diagnose and solve problems. This also talks about kind of gives you a little bit on how to troubleshoot some top issues. So it's just kind of a nice way if you're having issues being like, oh, where do I go? All right, so events. This is all about our event grid integration. So event grid integration, we'll talk more about in the fourth webinar, and it's a way for you to set events, being able to, for example, if I have my Raspberry Pi device connected to a temperature sensor, and I created a logic app that whenever the temperature gets too hot, I wanted to send an email, you can do that. So you can see that there's different options with Event Grid. And due to the time for this webinar, we won't dig too deep into that. Share access. This really, again, goes into what your permissions are for this particular IoT Hub, pricing and scale, which you can see that information and overview, but it gives you your pricing and if you need to switch as well. All right, so I'm going to get to more of the ones you're going to be really looking into a lot. That one is your IoT devices. This is where you're going to register a new device. Before you can even connect a device, you need to actually register a device to begin with. So let's go ahead and create a new device. This, I'm going to say wearable device. And you don't have to enter primary key or secondary. It should automatically generate those keys for you. If you have a X509 cert, you can do that here. But for the sake of time, we're just going to use SAS token. So you can see I registered a device. When you register that device and you click on it, this is where you're going to find your primary keys, your secondary keys, your connection string. So let's go back to that online tutorial with the Raspberry Pi. When they talk about register and actually running your device, there is a link to setting up your actual Raspberry Pi in the code. So let's go ahead and dig into that. So this code, what it's showcasing is that it needs a connection string, and this is all about how it's going to connect to your IoT Hub. So you have your IoT Hub device connection string. This is going to connect to your IoT Hub securely. The next piece of code is the LED pin. If you've worked with a Raspberry Pi device, it's really just the pin that's connecting to your LED. And then the rest of the code is all about, there's a temperature sensor here. When a message is sent, it's sending the reading of the temperature. And every time you send temperature up, what happens is the response will be that it will evoke a method, which will then go ahead and light up your LED. So what we'll need to do is actually take that connection string. So we'll go back to the portal. This is your, you want to use your primary connection string. You can go ahead and take your connection string, and then you're going to add it to here, and you're going to make sure you just get rid of the brackets and add it right there. I actually have already added it, and I scroll down so you can't see what my connection string is, but I'm going to go ahead and run this. And you can see that, okay, we've sent the message to IoT Hub. You can see what the message is. It's temperature and your humidity. And then every time it gets a message sent, the LED lights up. So we should be able, going back to your overview, you can see now that, oh, okay, and soon that device to cloud messages are coming in. So this is a good way to just see that things are being sent up. But this is a very, very simple getting started overview. In the next training event, we're going to really deep dive into the code and talk about how to do device management. What is a device twin? How you invoke methods, all of that. But this one is a great way to just quickly get started and be like, okay, I've now sent data up to the cloud. And also want to show how you can link your IoT Hub to device provisioning service. So we're going to go ahead, go back here, and we can create a device provisioning service. You can see I already have one, but I'm going to go ahead and add. Name it, so device DPS workshop, IoT resource group, our main resource, location, and I'm going to have that create. And you can see it's fairly simple on that deploying and creating a DPS. So if I wanted to go there, go back to home, and you can also search as well your DPS. I'm actually going to go ahead and go to this one that's already created, so we're not waiting on the deployment, but you can link your IoT hubs here. So I'm going to go ahead and add. I got my dummy inscription, and then my IoT hub, and then you're always going to see it as owner, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And what this does is links to your IoT hub for device provisioning service, because you do need to link an IoT hub for device provisioning service. The provisioning service is a part of the IoT hub. We'll learn more of why you're doing that, but the goal here is just to showcase how easy it is to link your IoT hub to device provisioning service. Device provisioning service is perfect, especially if you're going to if you need to connect a lot of devices and register and configure them pretty quickly. All right, I'm gonna hit refresh and it shows up. So we are good there, easy peasy. So let's go ahead, move on, and go back to the presentation. And one thing I would like to say though, if you are wanting to do this module or this full learning path that we linked to, you could go to the learning path, and what's great about these is that since it's a sandbox environment, you didn't even need an Azure subscription to get started. I used an Azure subscription that I had. However, you don't need to do that if you're getting started, because part of this is, let's say you go here, you're going to see a note that says it doesn't require an Azure subscription, but you can actually activate a sandbox. And a sandbox environment lasts for about 2 hours, depending on which module you do. And what's great about that is that it gives you an Azure subscription. So if you don't want to sign up right now, it's okay, because you can still test this out and learn without it. All right, so let's continue. So we kind of touched on edge devices and why they're important. Not every IoT solution uses an edge device. That's why I didn't highlight it as a core subsystem. However, there are a lot of IoT solutions that use edge devices that have, IoT devices would say that only have like Bluetooth and can't connect to the cloud. So they need some sort of gateway device to be able to connect to the cloud that has that capability. Or, there's many reasons why to bring a gateway device in, or to act like a gateway device to the cloud gateway. So your edge device. So we're gonna go through this. And so edge, let's go back to what we talked about before with the IoT application pattern. You have your things going to insights and actions, and then the action being driven back to things. So that's a normal way of doing things. But when we start bringing intelligence in, we can actually drive those insights and actions on the edge side. And this is great for many reasons, especially in manufacturing, where there's a lot of limitations with connection. So maybe the Wi-Fi isn't good, or there's a lot of interference. And also what happens with real-time responses. So for example, if you're a gas station and you have security cameras up, and the security cameras have, let's say, AI models that have been deployed on the security camera that does object detection. And the object detection, one of the things it looks for is if someone is pumping their gas and then smoking a cigarette. It can alert, process that data on the edge quickly because it's closer to the device side, and then send up the information that it needs to send up to the cloud for the actions to happen. So for in this case, it'll send up, hey, there's, the cigarette has been detected, a safety concern has been detected, do something now. It goes up to the cloud, and the cloud, depending on what you have up there, you can say, hey, we're going to send an alert to the gas station attendant to be able to stop that person. So, or it can all be done on the edge side. You didn't have to send that information to the cloud. So you can quickly tell the attendant or who's ever managing the gas station, hey, something's happening right now, do something, and you don't have to have that sent to the cloud. Then the benefit there is reporting up for like assurance companies, or if there was a police investigation that's going on or anything like that, then you have that information in the cloud and stored of what happened. All right, so we do offer IoT Edge. IoT Edge, again, you can offload your AI and do all your actions and insights on the edge side. You can operate offline, real time. And the great thing about IoT Edge, this offering, is that it's open source, which is really, really beneficial. And it can run on Windows and Linux. So it works on many different types of devices. So you don't have to just work with Windows. You don't have to just work with Linux. You can work with what your business is using today, which is definitely really important if you're trying to get started quickly. Also, there's a lot of tooling support for IoT Edge, and also you don't have we have development using languages that most likely you already have. So example, Java, C#, Node.js, C, and Python. And so if you're working with IoT Edge, you can work with any of those languages for your modules. Perfect. Another use case, this one was all about that offline capability of IoT Edge and also real time. So Newcrest, they have a lot of concerns when it comes to mining. And with mining, they needed to be able to have sensors that was able to understand what is the dust, what is the temperature. Also, there was a lot of earth tremors. They needed to be able to detect that. So it was a really challenging environment, and especially for miners who are in that environment, and also the equipment that's in that type of environment as well. So what they did was actually have edge devices which were running AI workloads that were able to process what was going on the edge side and then be able to make decisions there in a quick environment. So they were able to know when their machines need to be fixed. They were able to lower their downtime, and they were also able to create a safe working environment for their employees too, who are working in the mines. So this one's also, I really like this story. Anytime it's workplace safety, I'm a big fan of. Okay, so I did mention IoT Edge works with Linux and Windows, and since I mentioned Windows, I definitely want to cover it real quick. So Windows for IoT, we have a couple offerings. One is, before I get into the offerings, the reason why to go for Windows IoT, especially on the intelligent edge side, we have Windows ML support for Azure IoT Edge. Also, they've made sure that the Windows IoT operating system is able to run ML really well on the edge, and then it's secure. We have a full team backing it up, and it's fast, it's very quick for you to get started with IoT devices with Windows. So what is actually the offerings for Windows when it comes to IoT? So Windows 10 IoT Core is actually a operating system. It's for small footprint devices, so like Raspberry Pi. You can run Windows 10 IoT Core on it. And then Windows 10 IoT Enterprise, these are for more fixed function smart devices, and it's locked down, but it's still a full edition for Windows 10. So you're getting that full feeling of Windows 10 because it is, but it's a little bit more catered for IoT devices. And then we have, especially if you're doing really, really demanding edge compute workloads, you have a lot of AI or machine learning running on the edge, Windows Server IoT 2019, and then we have SQL Server IoT 2019 as well. And the biggest thing for this and why there's a lot of folks who go for Windows for IoT is because of the 10 years of support of security and device management and those extra features. So this one's a unique use case, and so this one kind of goes back to the gas station example, but it's a little bit different because this one, Dover, what they did was actually create kind of a smart gas station experience that's personalized for who's ever pumping the gas. So imagine you're pumping the gas, and the screen is starting to advertise relevant products for you, and it kind of creates more of a personal feel at the gas station. It's a different way of thinking of things, of, you know, being able to have something a little bit more personalized for you. So how it's working is that it understands, you know, your past purchases in the gas station. So let's say you really like that Super Gulp, and you know, maybe you're in a hurry, maybe the ad, you know, the actual machine itself that's pumping the gas, the screen pops up with a Super Gulp based on your past purchases, or maybe it says, hey, there's a discount, or, you know, a loyalty program or something like that. It's a little bit more personalized for you. So it's an interesting take, and it's kind of a fun one. We also have Azure RTOS. For those who may be not aware, Azure RTOS, so Microsoft, we acquired Express Logic a while back. So Express Logic, they're one of the leading, they're one of the leading folks in the industry who is who have a RTOS offering. So they have over 6.2 billion deployments already, and so we did recently acquire them, and so you're going to see more and more information about Azure RTOS, what that means, but really RTOS stands for Real-Time Operating System. It's all about providing a reliable real-time performance for constrained devices, and so with that acquiring of Express Logic, we're hoping that also we have Azure IoT support, and you'll start to see that. And so it makes it easier to use solution for you to go from pilot to production, and access all of the power of Azure IoT of what we've talked about in the past. And it also, so it connects directly to Azure IoT Hub, and it can also connect indirectly to Azure IoT via IoT Edge as well. And you can see we have a couple silicone partners for that. All right, so I'm going to go kind of quickly for the rest of the presentation. So going back to that overall IoT architecture, you see I just circled a big chunk of stream processing and storage and business integration and UI experience and dashboard. And so you're probably wondering why I circled all of that. And that's because of Azure Time Series Insights. So Time Series Insights, it's definitely a great way to get all of that and be able to go from pilot to production quickly. So what it does is ingest and process your data without this extra coding, which is really important if you're trying to get started quickly. And I could tell you, if you want to get started with Time Series Insights, you saw that we just created an IoT Hub and we started sending simulated data to IoT Hub. The next step is really creating an Azure Time Series Insights and linking that to your IoT Hub. It's as simple as that. And so it's so quick to get started. You get a nice dashboard for Time Series Insights. And then also you can store your warm and cold data analytics for quick interactions with stream and historical data. And then nice visualization for that data. And so I just wanted to show some screenshots of that. So you're able to actually see quickly the data in different time spans, you know, and even if it's shorter or longer time spans, you can create that. And also with Time Series Insights, let's say your company is already using Power BI as the rest of your business, it actually you can connect Time Series Insights has extensibility through Power BI connector to be able to enable you to actually see all this in Power BI as well. So it's just a great way to integrate with your business and also just start seeing the data in some sort of visual form. So this is another customer example where they were using time series insights in the industrial IoT space. So in manufacturing, they were able to actually see the information coming from the equipment. And so this goes back to why it's powerful in manufacturing, because a lot of this data was entered in manually. A lot of manufacturers, it takes a lot of time to have many teams sit there and, create these IoT solutions and create a dashboard and have teams that are developing all of that when they can be working with time series insights or partners like this. All right, so I'm going to jump into Azure Maps. I always feel like there's not enough people who know about Azure Maps when I talk to folks, but it's absolutely amazing. It's a series of APIs for enterprise users. So it comes, you have APIs for maps, you have SDKs, you have routing capability, which I'll show you in a moment, search capabilities, you can see traffic, time zones, geolocation, and then you can host your private map data on Azure Maps as well. We just released weather services, a Power BI integration, and then government cloud support too. So if you work and you have to use the Azure Government Cloud, this is a good thing to know about. And the reason why I like to highlight Azure Maps is because location data is a big part in a lot of IoT solutions. Think of asset tracking. You need to understand where you are, and so Azure Maps can really help with that. And so again, a little bit more information, Azure Maps. You can use Azure Maps with open source and familiar map controls. So if you already have mapping, already using open source things, you can use Azure Maps with those open source projects, which is really nice. All right. This example I really like because it talks about geofencing. And so imagine that you have a construction zone, and part of that construction zone you have blocked out areas, or you have different areas where if a truck goes into that area, you want to be alerted on. So this is a really great way of using geofencing to map out the areas that you want alerts to be sent out if a truck goes into a danger zone, or again, go back to the workplace safety. If a construction worker walks into a construction zone, which they're not supposed to, you could be alerted on. So you can use Azure Maps geofencing capabilities for that. I love this page. You probably hear the excitement off of my voice, but this page is really amazing because it has a lot of demos. So if you wanted to get started, let me pull this up. There's a full website that is all open source code, and there's 211 code examples, so you can go wild on here. But what's great about this is you can run the sample, you can get the source code, but it showcases the power of Azure Maps, and then also how to incorporate it with your own, with some other open source projects, mapping projects. So one of my favorite that I just like to highlight is the car versus truck route. So I already have that pulled up. So example of this, let's say we're traveling from Seattle, we're going to Redmond, and my vehicle is going to have flammable liquids. So I'm going to calculate the directions. And so with Azure Maps routing, one thing with the routing is that you can set if it's a truck or a car or plane or anything like that to help find the right route. For example, this truck, which you can see in green, the green line is the route they're going to take. due to the fact that they have flammable liquids, it has to take another route because it has information that it can't go this route. It's the same, you know, you might see signs when you're driving and over a bridge and it says no flammable liquids or anything like that. You can't go over certain bridges, but this actually shows what you're able to do. So if you have connected connected logistics that you need to think of, this is a great example. All right, so we talked about the lack of skilled workers for IoT solutions. There's really a couple ways to handle and solve this issue. One is a lot of great training material out there. Also, making sure the services you build is easier to use. But there's also another thing that we're looking into, which goes to Azure IoT Central. So going back to everything we just talked about with IoT Hub, DPS, all of those different products and services, that was if you were going to build your own IoT solution the past way. And so that is if you really want that kind of full control of what your application is going to be and you know, have the team to do that. And what IoT Central is, it handles most of the device management, a lot of your overhead, a lot of those services for you, because it's a fully managed IoT app platform. So you can build with IoT Central and you can customize it too. And I'll show you that in a moment. I'll go kind of quickly, but it's really there to simplify the setup, reduce management burden, your operational costs, because you know, some partners find it easier to build with IoT Central because it's based on how many devices you have. So it's really easy to understand your pricing, and it's super scalable, it's industry focused, and it's already enterprise grade. So you can feel really confident on using IoT Central, that it's secure for you. And then also the great thing with IoT Central, it helps with your business integration and can connect to other things like Power BI as well. Real quick, so the difference between going PaaS and this managed app platform, so there's always a question of which one do I choose? So some 3 key things to think of is, 1, management. Do you want to spend your time and resources on building an IoT application through all of the PaaS services? Or do you want to take advantage of a managed service? And keep in mind that this is not yes or no on like what is better for everyone. We're not saying everyone should go to IoT Central or everyone should go the platform services route. It really depends on your business. So if you want that full control of all of your services, PaaS services is the way to go. If you want to get started quickly and you are okay with Microsoft really handling that the app platform managed side, where we take care of the scale, the security, and your management of your application devices for you, that's the reason to go to IoT Central. And then what elements of your solution do you want to customize? If you want full customization and full control, go the PaaS way. If you want to customize mostly just branding and your dashboard, then and then what your devices are, what your telemetry are, then you know it makes a lot more sense to go to IoT Central. And then pricing. Pricing, as I mentioned before, with IoT Central, is a lot easier to understand your pricing because it's based on devices, and it's some messaging as well, but it's super straightforward. Unlike if you're building with PaaS services, you know what the pricing is for each services, but due to the fact that, let's say your IoT solution, maybe you decide to use Azure Stream Analytics and go to a Power BI, there's different pricing on those different products and services that you have to calculate. So your capabilities with IoT Central, white labeling, so you can change the colors, you can add your logo. We also have templates that are for different industries. I'll show you in a moment. We have IoT Edge support, multi-tenancy support, tons of API support, plug and play support to be able to connect to devices quickly. And so I am actually going to jump through and back to Chrome and show you an example. This is IoT Central, and you can see that there's a lot of templates that you can choose from, but you can create your own template too, or your own app, but you can get started off a template. So I actually have one that's up right now, that's Connected Logistics. The Connected Logistics, this one's all about having a bunch of trucks and boats that are all over the place, and you need to be able to track them. And so you can see with IoT Central, I was able to fully customize this dashboard. I'm able to view my devices. I'm actually able to set rules. So I have a couple rules already set up. One is gateway theft alert. So let's say someone stole one of my assets. I actually have this set up where there's a certain threshold and conditions set up that the action would be that to send an email that something was stolen. In this case, it was a gateway device. And then you're actually able to add more analytics to this, and then you're able to export your data too, which this is a way for you to be able to connect to Power BI, or maybe you want to export your data for long-term data storage. It's fully up to you. And not only are you seeing your data, you can also do things like update firmware. So it's device to cloud, but cloud to device as well. So in the back end of this managed service is IoT Hub, DPS, time series insights, Azure Maps, all of that for you in this nice, easy to view and connect your devices to. So that's IoT Central. All right, so one thing I would like to show is security. We go back and we've said a couple times now security is really important. So for security, we do have Azure Security Center for IoT. Azure Security Center has been around for a while now. So what's great about this is that you're actually able to see across your full IoT solution, not just IoT Hub, but across your full IoT solution. So think of VMs, your databases, all of that. You're able to see if there's vulnerabilities. You're able to see if there was a person who tried logging into your device. And then you're also able to get recommendations to improve your IoT solution as well, and how to make it more secure. And then you're able to create custom alerts as well, which is super powerful because you're the one who knows your IoT solution the best. And so for you able to create your own alert, for example, if you know that your device should only be sending up, a certain amount of data, and instead it's sending, tons of data for some reason, you can actually set up an alert to say, hey, something's happening here. Someone's messed with this device, or, like this is abnormal. Let's be noted on this. So definitely take a look at Azure Security Center for IoT. And then I wanted to jump into developer resources. So learn how to get started with IoT. Mentioned the actual learning paths and all of the modules that we have on MS Learn. That is a great way to get, excuse me, online sandbox environment tutorials. And we have a lot of tutorials that you can go through. We also have a developer guide. So if you just want to see, okay, where do I even get started? Like I'm a little overwhelmed here. Seems to be a lot of products. We went over it in this event, but there is a really good developer guide that goes through, okay, if you're looking for stream processing, here's the products you can look into, and this is what stream processing actually means. And so it's a really great starting point if you're just getting started. And so we also have the Azure IoT Reference Architecture Guide. This is a nice kind of view of our subsystems. I went through it today, but it gives more of a deep dive on it. It's actually it's like a 70-page PDF that you can actually download or view, and it really goes through what are some things you need to think about, like high availability, what are some common architecture things that you need to consider when mapping out what your needs are. So it's a really good guide for you on what products you should choose, because maybe time series insights is right for your business, or maybe you want to go through Azure Stream Analytics and connect that to Power BI for visualizations. And then of course we have our Azure IoT docs. The docs have getting started, tutorials, how-to guides, reference papers. So for example, if you wanted to learn more about security, you can deep dive into all of our security white papers to really get you up ramped. And also, if you're already a security expert, you will find those white papers super valuable and the information there. And then IoT Show, I'm doing a plug here. So we have a new video every Monday. I'm also a host for the deep dives, which are training videos every Wednesday. So if you are interested in what our latest announcements are, they're about 15 minutes every Monday to watch, hey, this is what's new in the IoT space. And then the deep dives are 20 minutes to 45 minutes on a particular feature. So that's the vanity link is aka.ms/IoT show. We also have the IoT Tech community. This is a brand new community where you can actually get updates, you can share your projects with folks. Us in engineering, we're in this community, so if you have questions, some technical questions or business questions or anything like that, definitely ask, because we're all about wanting to hear any issues you're having, but also if you have new feature ideas or anything like that, this is a great community for that. And we also have blog posts of new tutorials. All right, so this is the last slide. So all about getting started. So there's that learning path link for you to get started. The managed devices as an IT admin is what we showcased in this event today. And then please sign up for the end-to-end IoT solutions. The rest of them are going to be really deep diving into the code and really all of the features within those particular products and services. So device-to-device communication, we're really going to deep dive into IoT Hub, device provisioning at scale. We're going to deep dive into device provisioning service and answer all of your questions there. There's going to be a lot more Q&A, messaging and processing, analytics, and business integration. We will cover time series insights, event grid integration. So remember when we were in the Azure portal, that event section, we will cover that and how to create an alert. And then Azure Stream Analytics, we'll cover both Azure Stream Analytics on the cloud and then on the edge as well, because they do have edge capabilities. And then the last one, IoT Edge. It's all about IoT Edge. We'll talk about what are some best practices if you have offline or solutions that have offline needs. We'll talk about how you actually create a module, how you actually store containers in the cloud and deploy it on a device. So we'll work through each step on creating an IoT Edge solution. All right, well, thank you so much for joining this training event, and I hope you found it valuable. If you have any questions, reach out on the tech community, and we're excited to answer your questions. Thank you.